What's going on, everybody? Kalupis Tech here, coming back at you with another video. So I just found some information about the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G that was leaked a couple days ago. So I wanted to go over this information and give you my honest thoughts about it. I did get all this information from an article on a website called Tech Advisor. So if you want to see the article for yourself, feel free to check out the description. I will be linking to it there. But otherwise, I'm just going to skim it real quick and give you my opinions. So let's get into it. The first thing I want to go over is the anticipated release date. Now, according to this article, they're expecting it to be released somewhere between March and April of 2023, and honestly, I don't think we really need a leak to tell us that. I mean, pretty much every Samsung Galaxy A50 something phone has been released around the same time, so that alone really isn't anything new. Now, if I were to guess, I would say it's probably going to be closer to April or maybe the end of March, and the reason I say that is because with the Samsung Galaxy A14 5G that came out a couple weeks ago, I remember getting the Samsung Galaxy A13 5G in December of 2021 around the middle of the month, so it seems like compared to last year, Samsung's release schedule may be pushed maybe a month later, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't make a huge difference. The bottom line here is by the middle of the spring, the A54 should be starting to roll out. Now, when it comes to the actual price of the phone, it's rumored that the A54 5G is actually going to be a bit more expensive than its predecessors. Now, according to this article, the leak suggests it's going to be somewhere around the 500 to 600 euro range, depending on the version you get. Because like all its predecessors, there is going to be a 128GB version and a 256GB version, so there is going to be that little difference too. And when you compare this to US dollars and pretty much everything for that matter, this is actually pretty pricey, especially for a more mid-range device. Now, that being said, I'm not really expecting this to affect things a whole lot because keep in mind, especially in the US at least, most carriers like Metro, Cricket, T-Mobile, everyone's going to be offering some crazy deals on this phone, especially considering it's probably going to be the next big mid-range Samsung phone. So in reality, despite having a sort of higher price tag, most people are not going to be paying full price for it anyway. It's kind of like when you go to Walmart and you see something that's pretty much always on sale and they basically give it a higher price to make it look like you're saving a lot of money. So on one hand, if you're looking to get this phone unlocked, then you might have to pay a bit more. But again, when this phone does come out in the US, I feel like most people are probably going to be getting it through some sort of carrier deal anyway. So sure, it might be a little bit more pricey, but at the end of the day, it's not really that big a deal. Now, one potential theory I kind of have, and we'll talk a bit more about this later, but as you may or may not know, there's no replacement for the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE, which I was kind of surprised by because in my opinion, I personally have this phone, I use it all the time, and it is a really good device. I feel like from my comments on my videos I've done about it, a lot of people really do like it, so I was surprised that we're not getting a successor, but maybe Samsung may have decided to make the A54 5G more of their premium kind of phone that's more of a bridge between a mid-range phone and a flagship phone. So I don't know, that could be completely wrong, but I guess we'll see when the phone actually releases. Now, when it comes to the actual design of the phone itself, according to the leak at least, again, like I was saying, it does kind of remind me of the S21 FE a bit more. For the display, it's actually supposed to have a 6.4-inch display, which is pretty much the same as the S21 FE. And second of all, I mean, just take a look at the actual design itself. It does look really similar. Now, I'm not saying this really means anything definite, because after all, when it comes to Samsung phones, a lot of them look pretty much the same anyway. But still, compared to previous versions of this phone, like the A53 5G, A52 5G, and so on, the A54 5G might turn out to be a bit more of a premium device. For the cameras, as you can clearly see, it looks like the phone has a triple camera setup, which later in the article, let me find it real quick. Right here, apparently the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G is going to have a 50 megapixel main camera as opposed to the 64 we got with the A53 5G. And like they also say, that means it's probably going to have a better sensor and lens, which again suggests the phone is going to be a bit more premium than its predecessors. But that does make me wonder, what are these cameras actually going to be? Because with the A53 5G, we had a main camera, of course. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head. But then there was an ultra-wide camera, a depth sensing camera for portrait mode and stuff like that, and then a macro camera. So what are they taking off with the A54 5G? If I had to guess, and I hope I'm right in this situation, it's probably going to be the depth sensing camera, because with higher end phones and just more premium devices in general, you don't really need one, especially if the sensor is that much better. And another cool possibility is that instead of a macro camera, we might end up getting a telephoto lens, kind of like the A72 5G had back in 2021. That would be really cool because just like with a macro camera, you can technically get those close-up detailed images with a telephoto lens too, but it also helps you get long distance photos, and it's definitely quite a bit better than digital zoom. So overall, definitely a lot of possibilities here, but either way, considering it's pretty much one of the higher end A-series phones, no matter what, I'm sure the camera is at least not going to be bad. For the colors, it looks like the A54 5G is going to be offered in awesome graphite, awesome lime, awesome white, and awesome violet, so that's pretty awesome. But to be perfectly honest, I don't think I've ever once paid attention to the colors of any phone, so this is all new to me, except the lime. I don't think I've ever seen lime before. But regardless, in case you were wondering about the colors, that's pretty much it. The performance is another area where the A54 5G feels like it's kind of taking on the role of the S21 FE being more of a bridge between mid-range phones and flagship phones. According to this information, it scored 776 on Geekbench 5 for the single core score, and then 2599 for the multi-core score. And if you take a look at the S21 FE, that's actually really not that different. Sure, the S21 FE is still significantly higher, but compared to something like the Google Pixel 6a, for example, it is actually pretty close, especially for technically being a mid-range phone. Now, that being said, I'm pretty sure the A54 5G still isn't going to have exactly flagship level speeds, but again, I feel like for this phone, it seems like it's going to be aimed at people who are maybe wanting a little bit more out of their phone than a normal mid-range phone can offer, but still might not want to pay $1,000 for a flagship phone. When it comes to the actual processor itself, it doesn't seem like they know the official name yet, but the Exynos 1380 sounds like a pretty good guess, although considering past versions, there's most likely going to be a Qualcomm or MediaTek version out there somewhere. Because when it comes to Samsung Galaxy A series phones, and even the S21 FE for that matter, lots of times the US version and the international version is going to have a slightly different processor, but it could always be the same this time. Now, they do have some information about the battery here, but long story short, I'm going to assume in the US version, whatever we get through US carriers at least, is going to have a 5000 mAh battery supporting 25 watt fast charging. That's what it's always been. It hasn't changed for a good 3 years. I actually don't remember what the A51 5G was like. I was kind of new to the game when that phone came out. But battery wise, the A52 5G and the A53 5G have been pretty much the same, and I don't really see why they would change it now, because most phones in the US, at least at this level, are going to have something around a 5000 mAh battery, and with the A53 5G, the battery life has been pretty good, so at the very least, I don't imagine they're going to make it worse. When it comes to software, this honestly kind of goes without saying, but the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G is going to have Android 13, and in case you're not super familiar with Samsung, I do want to point out that they have some of the best software support, especially when it comes to more affordable budget phones like this. I think it's like 4 years of updates, so this phone should be getting Android 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. Maybe 18 if my math is wrong. But the point is, compared to pretty much every other manufacturer except I guess Apple, which doesn't really count in this case, Samsung really does have the best software support, and while some manufacturers like I think OnePlus for example are catching up, if you really want to get a phone that's going to last for a long time as far as having the newest version of Android and stuff like that, a Samsung Galaxy A series phone for what it is probably going to be one of the best options. And last but not least, I sort of mentioned this before, but essentially when it comes to RAM and storage, the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G is going to have two different versions, one that has 6 GB of RAM and 128 GB of internal storage, and then one that has 8 GB of RAM and 256 GB of storage. So pretty standard stuff, something that I don't think is really going to change anytime soon. I just hope they don't take away microSD card expansion, because as we've kind of seen over the years with these A-series phones, especially the higher end A-series phones, they are obviously modeling them sort of after the higher end phones. And starting with the A52 5G, they took away the headphone jack, or did it have a headphone jack? I don't even remember at this point, but the point is they keep taking away certain features like headphone jacks, so at this point it's really only a matter of time before they take away microSD card expansion too. I really hope they don't, but it's always a possibility, so we'll see. But that's what we currently know about the Samsung Galaxy A54 5G. Now, do I really think it's going to replace the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE? Sure, it's fun to speculate, but probably not, but it does seem like there are going to be some, if not significant, at least pretty nice changes. So keep in mind, if you are considering getting an A53 5G right now, then just because the A54 5G is so close, I would consider waiting, because even if you don't end up getting the A54 5G, once that phone comes out and reaches the US and US carriers, first of all, there are going to be some pretty nice deals, and second of all, the A53 5G is going to be a lot cheaper. So either way, if you are considering getting that phone, or really any higher end mid-range Samsung phone, I would personally just hold off a few months and see what happens, because we should be seeing some more pretty soon. But that was pretty much it for this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. Feel free to subscribe to the channel. And again, if you want to read the original article for yourself, check out the link in the video description. But as always, I will see you in the next one.